friends, and welcome to our Bible study this week. I'm Reverend Sage, and I'm so excited to be continuing on our journey through the first book of the Bible. Remember the name of it? Genesis. That's right. And this week we are coming to the story of the first two sons that are born on the earth, the first two children that Adam and Eve have. The first son's name is Cain, and the second son's name is Abel. I want to tell you the story of Cain and Abel, and then we're going to talk about what it might mean for each of us and what we could learn from it today. So first, let me tell you the story. Cain was the first son and then Abel, and they grew up in the land. Cain became a farmer like his father Adam. He cultivated the ground, tilled the soil, and grew plants for them to eat. Abel, on the other hand, became a shepherd. He cared for lambs and sheep and helped them to graze and stay safe. And then he brought these home to his family so that they might have meat to eat and also wool to make fabric and clothes with. One day, Cain and Abel brought offerings to God. Cain brought some of the fruit of the ground that he had grown in his work as a farmer. Abel, on the other hand, brought the firstborn of his flock with the best fat portions, and he brought this offering to God. Now God was pleased with Abel, the shepherd's offering, but he was not pleased with Cain's offering, and he rejected it. And this made Cain very, very angry and sad. So much so that in the story, Cain goes and kills his brother Abel. Now, why do you think God might have accepted Abel's offering and not Cain's? Do you have any ideas about that? I also wonder if it makes you a little angry at God. Is God playing favorites here by liking what Abel has to bring, but not liking what Cain has to bring? It can feel that way when we first read this story, and we might feel a little badly for Cain. But what we learn when we read the Bible very closely is that there was a difference in their two offerings. Abel had brought the first of his flock, the very best that he had to bring. And he had brought that to God with a heart full of gratitude for all that God had given. Whereas it says that Cain did not bring the first fruits of the land, but he just brought some fruit that he had, and he brought it to God. It feels like Cain's offering doesn't have a lot of heart in it. It's not his very best. He's saving his very best instead for himself and not giving it to God. And what we learn from the story is God can see this because God can see into our hearts. God doesn't just look at the things we bring or the things that we do. God is concerned about why we do them and what our heart is saying. And so in the story, when God sees into Cain's heart that he is not trying to do his best, he rejects his offering. The other reason we can see for why God accepts Abel's offering and rejects Cain has to do with the inner meaning of the story, which is a really important part of the story that we learn about in our church. And the inner meaning of the story tells us that there's a big difference between plants and animals. Now, obviously, there's a difference physically, but there's also a difference spiritually. If you remember in the story of the 7 days of creation, plants grow first, and then God creates animals. And if you think about a plant, they're beautiful and important, and we wouldn't be alive if we didn't have them to grow and to eat and to help our planet to thrive. And Plants have their limitations. Plants don't walk. They don't talk. They don't give hugs. Plants are stuck where they're rooted. And so the life that plants have is a little bit lower down on the threshold than the life that animals have. Because of course, animals play and run. They have hearts that beat. They keep their bodies warm. Animals have a whole life where they can live and move freely through the earth. So when Cain brings the fruits of the ground, these plants that he has grown, he is bringing God his mind, his thoughts, his faith in understanding of who God is. Whereas when Abel brings the first of the flock of sheep, he is bringing his whole heart to God, all of his love. And this is what the Lord wants. The Lord wants our hearts to be loving and good. And that is the first and most important thing from which all of our ideas and doctrine and teaching should come from. Cain is in trouble in this story, and he makes some bad choices because he is so caught up in his mind, in his ideas, without having a heart for God. And when we get caught up in our ideas without focusing on our hearts, opening our hearts to each other, we can get into all kinds of mischief. And Cain is certainly an example of that. So what we can take from our story today, friends, is how important it is to love first, to care for each other. If we don't do anything else, or if we don't learn anything else about God or doctrine or the Bible, if we love each other, it'll be okay. But if we are only thinking and trying to figure things out in our heads, and we aren't really loving each other, we can get very lost along the way. So keep that love alive, friends. Take care of your family and your friends. Reach out with love to those you meet, and know that God is there with you in your heart, helping you to love one another. And make sure when you have ideas about things or plans or things you want to do, that your ideas are coming from a loving place. Let's close our time together, friends, with a prayer. Let us say together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care.